Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United at the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United, the National League, are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's Sutton Podcast. I'm your host Mike, and joining me on today's panel we've got Mark and Harry. We're going to be talking about the Salford defeat and look forward to the Crawley match next Saturday. Don't forget you can help with costs of the sports show with one-off donations or regular subscriptions by joining us on Patreon. If you want to know more, look for the support us page on the website, which is suttonpodcast.com, or drop me a message by email or at Sutton Podcast on any of the socials. Big thank you to everyone who supported me in the past, and an extra big thank you for those who are currently supporting the show. You will have access to the XU's Views interview with Tony Raines this week, and it'll be at least 7 days ahead of general release. I'm glad you've given me your time to listen. Can't wait to share the panel's thoughts, and we're going to get going. So we're going to start off with the person who's just taken a big gulp of drink. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Good evening.
And what have you been up to?
Thanks.
What have you been up to since we last spoke, which was, I think, beginning of December in the Carlisle match?
Well, I've been to a few games, been to a few pubs, been doing a bit of bird watching. That pretty much sums it up.
And just to remind everyone, Mark does actual bird watching, not female watching. He's not being very derogatory. He's talking about physical birds. Just a little reminder, because we've kind of picked up a few extra listeners since I think last time we spoke and last time we've done this. Just a little remind us of who you are and your sort of Sutton supporting history. Just a very concise few seconds.
Shall I go first?
Yeah, just yourself first, Mark.
Yeah. Well, I started following Sutton in the late 80s. My first game was the FA Cup first round match against Aldershot. It was the 14th of November 1987, which Sutton won 3-0. And I've been following Sutton mostly home and away pretty much since then. And I now do a bit of volunteering in the club office on Thursday mornings. Now I'm retired from my normal job.
Perfect. And for the second week in a row, we've got a debut panellist. I'm delighted to say joining me is Harry. Hiya, Harry. How are you?
Hi, mate. You all right?
Yeah, very well, thank you. So you may have heard it, your first time on the show. We want to know a little bit about you, your Sutton history. Essentially, it's who are you?
So, yeah, I started going to...
So go on, tell us about yourself.
I started going to Sutton in 2011 with my dad. Played for the club in youth age groups with them as well. And yeah, never looked back really. Used to go to Arsenal a bit before, but as soon as I started going to Sutton, followed that 10 years of later, I was still watching Sutton.
Behave yourself, 10 years of depression.
You're after yesterday.
You're one of the group. Well, I think Mark will back me up here. I can tell you, losing a crap game in the Football League is far better than losing a crap game in the Ryman League. So yeah, you're those. Yeah, you're part of the group that I can't help but be jealous of, because you've had literally success, and I try and hide it. I think I do very well trying to hide it. I don't. But what's it been like? I've just been able to watch a team that you know are just on an upward curve.
Yeah, I think when I started watching it, a year or two after Doswell just taken over, and promotion a couple of seasons later in National South, then promoted, and obviously Football League, had the FA in that time. It has just been success, and there's only been one season in the National League really where I thought there's a chance we could get relegated, but it's been looking forward in a very good state.
Yes, same as now. I mean, we joke at the start saying, oh, it's depressing yesterday, but again, this season it's going to be like, okay, it's fine. We're all right. Well, what we'll do is have a little bit of a chat about some news before we get into the game. So a couple of bits around the club. We signed Lee Angold for a fee, I think. Paid money for a player. What do we think of that? Mark, if we start with you?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that we needed to bring in another striker. Though we've had quite a few on our books this season, they haven't all really cut the mustard. And even the preferred front two of Omar and Donovan are good enough for this level, not neither particularly prolific. So I think that felt they had to bring the forward, take a bit of pressure off the others. He was never going to be able to sign a player who's a prolific striker because those players are simply out of our reach. So we have to dig a little bit deeper. Lee Angol's had a number of clubs, but he has played for clubs. He is a proven scorer. He's not prolific, but he scored goals. And, Matt's always said that the goals to be shared around. So I think, once Lee starts to get a run of games in the team quite soon, I think we will start to see him chipping in. So I think that's a positive development. Obviously, we've got sent Charlie Kendall back to. It looks as if at least one of the other out a suitable club for.
Yeah, and Harry, where do you see Lee? Do you see him as a direct replacement for Donovan, Omar, or a bit of both?
Yeah, so when I saw it, I was very happy with the signing. Obviously, like Mark said, when you get a player of a high calibre, in contrast to Donovan, he's played at the level before. He knows the level, knows the teams, and he's played for a big club. Bradford will bring, I suppose, confidence in him inside. You've got Bugle as well, who's been around and played for the clubs. There's confidence there. With Kwame coming in the summer, it looked like an attempted direct replacement for Richie Bennett. But, you saw him pre-season, he might start the season much. And you sort of got pushed into that Wilson Bugle every single game. And it's repetitive. Teams are working it out. The goals aren't coming from there. So to get someone in that'll put pressure, I'd imagine mainly on Wilson as a goal scorer and Bugle being a second striker, it will give him the opportunity. I know Bradford fans were also saying the Angle played on the left-hand side a little bit more. So if you've now got him in his preferred position up front, he's going to start scoring the team that likes to put the ball in the box and try and make chances.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, will this signing now sort of get Donovan on his toes a little bit and realise there is a bit of actual genuine pressure and we might suddenly see a bit more from Donovan? Although, in fairness, I don't think we play to Donovan's strengths. We play to our strengths, but Donovan running on that last man, I don't think we necessarily do that so much. But staying with you, Harry, some other good news. 5 contracts were extended. I know Rob didn't look overly pleased with AB's video. His face was like, I'd rather be anywhere in the world, and probably wouldn't have signed if he knew that was happening. But how do you feel about the 5 contract extensions?
Obviously the big talking point is Goodliff. That's a young player who's done very. If he does stay away, you can keep him injury free. Whether he carries on playing for Sutton for a few more years or not, if he does go in the summer, you're going to get a good fee for him. How long was the contract? 18 months or so to the end of next season?
Do you know? I think it's to the end of next season.
Yeah. So
18 months, yeah, more or less.
Yeah, so if he does go, you've secured money for him, which is great. And to have a back line now, your 4 starters have all signed because they're going to get used to playing with each other. Eastie's obviously happy where he is. He's had off from other clubs and he's turned those down, so he's happy. And if you're building that squad and gelling them together over time, it can only be positive.
Absolutely. Mark, your thoughts on the 5 extensions?
Yeah, obviously good news. those 5 players are all stalwarts at the club. Some have been more than others, but some you've got your four defenders plus Craig, who's sort of often a holding fielder. So we basically got a defensive structure that we've got this season in place for next season. That can't be a bad thing. I imagine Matt will want to get a few forward playing. Jules signed up as well for this season's out. So with a bit of luck, what news about those next few months?
Yeah, I suspect such a big thing was made about the 5 signing to encourage some of the others to put a little bit of pressure on them to just sign it. I don't think he's going to get caught out with that whole Dean situation again, where he kind of, as far as we're concerned, it was all done and dusted, but then out of the blue, something else came up. Again, I'd do it, so no disrespect to Dino, I'd be off like a shot. But onto the game. What were the initial thoughts at the lineup? Obviously, the main highlight, if you like, is the change of goalkeepers. But other than that, it was an unchanged side. Mark, what were your sort of thoughts at the lineup and your initial thoughts? What was going to happen in the game?
Well, I think it was fairly clear that the lineup we had, the starting 11, both against Wimbledon and Tranmere, was probably Matt's strongest preferred starting 11. So it was no surprise that, with the exception of the goalkeepers that started yesterday, I don't think as a team they played nearly as well as in the 2 previous games. I wasn't at a Tranmere. We played well for quite a long stretch, and obviously well against them. So that clearly is a good set of outfield players, but they weren't quite up to the same standard yesterday. To be fair, Salford are a good side, really a better side. They looked a better side than when they came to our place back in September. It was so we needed to play pretty well to get something, and we were afraid of the par.
And Harry, what were you thinking ahead of the game when you saw the lineup?
Yeah, obviously the main concern being the keeper change, but there's not too much you can really think into that. And his day can be blinder. You can't preempt how that's going to go. Obviously, we've signed him from Swindon, so you'd expect to have confidence in him anyway. To me, having Enzio in the squad after a few games was slightly concerning, but obviously if Dave's not up to fitness yet, then there's not much you can do until next week. He made a massive impact on yesterday.
So what were you thinking before the game? Were you hoping for a win, expecting a draw, expecting nothing?
I was relatively confident going in. I know we've had games where we've liked to play long ball football, pitch in a state which was Sunday League at best. I thought we'd go out and we'd play long ball football, and we didn't. So I think that's the first time in the season we've got the ball down and played, and it didn't really work.
Mention the pitch. You've got to praise the ground staff for taking whatever precautions to get the game on, because almost up until kickoff, I was convinced there's going to be a call, and I was like, I can't believe they've made them travel all the way up there to get a game going to be called off when we knew what the weather would be like. Matt also praised the referee for sort of letting the match go ahead. How do you think it affected the game? Did it affect one team more than the other? I know you've mentioned that we bizarrely decided to play it on the deck, but Mark, what did you think? Did it give either team an advantage, or was it just fair enough for both?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, Salford were the home side, so they're familiar with more, so they may have given them a bit of an edge. But I mean, the conditions were quite difficult for both sides. It's a heavy pitch. There was a gusty wind, which Salford had first half in the second, and there were some quite heavy, sort of squally showers during the game. There was an area of the pitch quite near the centre circle. Obviously, was a matter of concern. The referee, after the first heavy shower, went over and he stopped play, went over and tested it, and he seemed content. It wasn't sufficiently boggy for the game to abandon, so the game continued. It went. But yeah, it wasn't a pitch or a set of weather conditions conducive to great football. But I just think Salford were a little bit more up from the day, and arguably mastered the conditions a bit better than.
And Harry, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Mark touched on it briefly. We all knew that the pitch was going to be iffy when we went into the game. You can only prepare for that as much as possible. We have one of the better pitches in the league. We know that. The work we've done on our home pitch has made it to a state where we can play the football we want to play. But going there, Salford notoriously having a poor pitch, are obviously going to get used to that. To me, the wind was probably just as big a factor. Every time we had a goal kick in the first half, it would be blowing straight back towards us, and it just allowed constant pressure. And the fact we still had chances to get out and go on the attack showed that we weren't playing too badly. In contrast to the second half, it was just constant pressure because Salford could not get out, and just didn't take the chance.
Well, Matt kind of mentioned a bit of that, touching out in the interview, saying that when we went the goal down, he was quite pleased with our reaction to it. You guys were both there. Did that feel like? Did it feel different when we've gone a goal down in sort of a few months ago? Start with you, Harry.
Yeah, I think we reacted well. We sort of grew into the game a little bit better than a lot of the time we concede and then we slow it right down and sure we don't concede again. It felt like we actually went out to try and get an equaliser straight away rather than sitting back a little bit more and making sure it only stays 1-0. Obviously, with conditions like that, you're aware that you can get through to half-time at 1-0. In the second half, you have the advantage. You can go for it a little bit better then. So I was surprised that we went for it and didn't just sort of sit back. But yeah, no, it was a positive reaction.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, their first goal, I think, was 9 minutes. If you go behind that early in the game, you've got 80 or so minutes left to get back into the game. So I don't think heads dropped. There was still a feeling that at that very early stage we could get back into the game. We did have some attacks first half, but the first 10 minutes were pretty much end to end. They seemed to make a bit more of their pressure. I think the timing of the second goal knocked us back quite a bit. It was half-time, of course, and it was a result of a goalkeeping error, isn't it? So once you go 2-0 down away from home, you've always got. I was up against it in the second, but we did make a real go of it in the second. Couldn't get that goal back.
That was actually going to be my next point. The timing of the second goal. Harry, what was your thoughts when that kind of we'll move on to the actual goal itself, but about the timing of it?
Yeah, I mean, it really does kill you. Anything you've prepared to say to the players at half time is suddenly blown straight out the window because you have to change everything you say, and your game plan for the first 10 minutes of the second half is now complete. I did notice as well at half time the Salford subs stayed out. Matt had every single player, subs, man, starters in the changing room for the first 5 minutes of half time, so he spoke to everyone. In contrast, half time you leave the subs out to walk on their own.
So the goal, as Mark's already said, it seems to be an error. I like Lewis. Lewis has got everything I want to be from a goalkeeper. He's big. He can kick with both feet. He's on paper everything you want, but he does have this tendency to punch or slap at the ball when you could perhaps catch it or even attempt to catch it. And Harry, I know you're qualified. Had he attempted to catch that and then the defender come in on him, that would have been a free kick, surely.
Yeah, it's safe. You're always going to give the free kick. Use a bit of common sense. You'd rather disallow a goal and people forget about it than everyone remembers that goal later down the line. It's just, to me, very poor and lazy. Like, if you have to try and catch that, you're protected enough that you can go for that. And if the commitment isn't there, then there's no real hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened before, and I've bemoaned the luck a little bit before, Mark, I think with you as well, where he's punched the ball out and it's just dropped straight at the feet of a striker. And it's like, is it getting to the stage of beyond luck now? I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, on the goalkeeper situation? Because to me, it seems like Jack is clearly number one. Yeah,
I think it's clear that Lewis is the second choice keeper. Obviously, he has the physique, very tall, as he is an asset for that second. But I think it can also be a hindrance. There've been a couple of times this season where he's been a bit slow to get down to a low ball struck at corner, and that was what their first goal was yesterday. I mean, it was a decent strike, but I think if we'd had Bizarreness or even Rose in goal, one of those might have got to it. But Lewis just couldn't get down quickly enough. Down. The second goal, the ball was cut back from the byline, so it was a high looping, difficult. But if in doubt, you just punch it out if you're not sure you can get it clear, tip it over the bar. He didn't attempt to do that. He didn't get any force on it. He did it straight down. It landed more or less at the feet of their striker, who had pretty much a tap in from about 10 yards out. So it was a very poor goal to concede. To be fair to Lewis, he did make a good save before their first goal after only a few minutes. He beat out their shot. So yeah, he didn't have a totally bad, but he was certainly at that second.
Yeah, so I sort of asked for a bit of feedback, and the one thing I had people come back to me was Gabriel saying, I can't believe we paid for him. And I'm wondering, does that have an effect on our viewpoint? Because I can imagine if Brad was in goal and Brad did the same, I just feel that we'd be far more forgiving of Brad. Obviously, I don't know because we're not in that same situation. But Harry, do you kind of feel the same, that if Brad was there, we're a little bit more forgiving of his mistakes?
I mean, he was brought in as a challenge for Jack Rose, and Matt made it pretty clear straight away that one of them was they were going to be fighting for first choice, and he would see how it plays out. Jack Rose obviously took it upon himself and became number one, which pushed Lewis Ward out. He then gets his chance to reinstate himself, but it just seems like constant mistakes. And I think when you've paid for a player, your expectations will naturally be higher, and it does leave you thinking, you've got Philip on loan at Merstrom, you've got Brad recalled from Havant. Are these players ever actually going to get a chance? Because if you paid for a player, you're going to prioritise them. But I fundamentally think he's not good enough.
I remember, Mike, you talked to one of the Swindon fans, I think it was last season. I think possibly after Lewis Ward announced was coming to us, and the Swindon guy said he thought Lewis Ward was definitely their second best keeper. Although he made some penalty save to play on. He didn't seem to rate Lewis Ward. So
what I find quite odd is the two of them apparently car share, and they're really they're really good friends. So okay, but so. So moving on a little bit, how do you think the subs affected the game? I know everyone's favourite Tope came on and caused havoc almost straight away. Mark, we'll start with you. What did you think of Tope and Dave at first?
We definitely looked a bit better, a bit more of a threat when Tope and David Enzio Toby won the penalty. And the ref thought about it for a second or so. He decided to convert it, as we know. And David looked good as well. He's not quite back to his former sharpness, but you could certainly see signs of like the old David that was getting down, beating crossing. So I don't think he's too far off to his best. He's obviously enjoying being back. So those two players did make a difference, but unfortunately not enough of a difference for us to get back into it. So, a couple of other players did come on very late, Josh and Harry, but that wasn't until around about the 87th minute. Yeah. So they did have much time to act.
Yeah, and Killian as well, very
about
very
90th
late.
minute, I think. Yeah.
Harry, how did you think the subs did when they came on?
I think, as we mentioned earlier, I have only been watching our sort of golden era. I think that's naturally made my expectations slightly higher because I'm more of let's strive for more. But we're the best we've ever been, and it leaves me thinking with how Tope does every time he comes on, what does he have to do to start? Because he's come on, he's won a penalty, he's got defenders on ropes. Wilson's been poor for a few games, and at some point you have to put the pressure on. I know the new signing will do that, but I think Tope's got to start a game. He's got to give him another chance. Ajiboye, brilliant when he came on, changed the game, made chances, got the ball in the box. Unfortunately, again, we weren't converting the chances. Josh looked good when he came on, but a little bit reluctant to put the ball into the box. And I think in the 85th minute, defenders are always going to be slightly more panicked than usual. Just put the ball in the box and hope, because at one point it will drop down to someone who can have a shot. And yeah, Harry, Killian did have massive opportunities to really played through them into.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned the penalty miss. Do we think that we could have nicked something from it if that penalty had got? I mean, Mr. Reliable. I think he went the opposite direction to normal, and the keeper saved it. It wasn't a miss. The keeper saved it. But do we think we would have nicked something out of it had that gone in? Would the momentum have shifted that much?
I think Matt felt that, judging from what you said in his post-match interview. Obviously, if you get a goal back to 2-1, that's going to give you a lift. If you've got, 20 minutes to go, there's enough time to get at least one more goal. So I think if we had got it back to 2-1, we probably would have finished a bit more strongly than we did. Whether we'd have actually got another goal, never know, we can't say. But it certainly would have the team.
Harry?
I'd go out there and confidently say if that penalty went in, because Salford didn't have a chance. All second half, didn't have a chance all second half, created nothing, we were on top and we just didn't have that confidence to score. There was times the ball was falling to our players 25 yards out and it was, let's try and play a short pass out wide. Just have a shot. And if you scored that goal, you've now got the confidence. As in fairness to Milsom, you put every penalty across your body to the top right and you now go bottom left and it's saved. You expect the keeper to go the other one. You suppose you can't really blame it. I don't think it was a poor penalty. He's hit it with enough power. The keeper's just got down very well.
Yeah, no, it's because I mean, you mentioned the take a shot. It's definitely something that we bemoan sitting on the curve when at home, and Ali did last week. And you took a ticket, you won the lottery. You scored with the keeper just palming it into the net. But how do we feel now? We're 14th now, although pessimistic Mike, with everyone winning their games in hand around us, would be 17th. We're only 4 points from the playoff, but again, we've played more than everyone else. How are we feeling about the remainder of the season? Mark, you made a point on Amber Planet about the teams that we've got left to play. So it's none of the top six, I don't think. But right, how are you feeling about the rest of the season? Are we going to do this push for the playoffs?
I think a lot depends on away form. We've got to obviously keep the home form going. The home form's been pretty good. We've won 8 games and we lost 3. So if we can keep the home form going, that gives us a good platform and certainly as well to relegation scrap. But our away form's not been great. I think 1-2. But we are playing away at 4 of the 6 bottom clubs between now and the end of the season. We've got some coming up: Harrogate, Hartlepool, Newport. I think just outside the bottom 6. So that's another opportunity. Then later in the season, you've got Colchester and Rochdale. Colchester are showing signs of movement. They've signed some new players, so they might be a trickier prospect during the season. But I think we need to be looking at picking up some away wins as well as maintaining the hope. If we can do that, then the playoffs still a bit of a push, but not out of the question.
And Harry, what do you think?
I'm fairly confident we will get up into that playoff fight, whether we make it or not. You saw teams like Bristol Rovers last year went over the season and made it. We have lower down clubs to play away, which is always going to be a benefit compared to the start of the season when we're going to like that, or Hampton, Nidge. And with Gillingham spending the money they have, and you would now expect them to be getting results, if they're playing the sides that are in around us, and we've played them twice, so we haven't got to worry about it. If they go and nick a few points against the other teams, it's points where we're now starting to gain a little bit more. I think well out of relegation scrap, Rochdale, Crawley, Hartlepool down there. I think 2 of those 3 that go, unless it goes horrendously wrong, a lot of money.
Yeah, the players they've got good players, and they've got to chill. Right, so we're going to wrap up on yesterday. Harry, I don't think I prepared you for this, but we asked for your player of the day. So we asked for 2 nominations each. So in a second, I just want you to give us your first nomination.
Now watch me do my dance. I'm the player of the day.
So go on, Harry. Who's your first choice for player of the day? It can be any reason you like. It doesn't have to be man of the match. It can be whatever you want.
Tope Fadahunsi, because he changed the game in the time that he came on.
Perfect. We'll do him for your first one. Mark, your first one?
Well, I'm going to go for the other substitute you came on with Tope, David.
Perfect. Now a bit harder. Harry, your second one.
You've absolutely killed me here. I haven't got a clue. Ali Smith, solid as always, really. And
Ali, perfect. I think last week he got the first time ever 100% on the votes when he was typing it up. It's like, this is pointless. And Mark, your second.
Yeah, I mean, none of the starting 11, I think, had a particular great game. But if I had to pick one, I'd go for Mr. Reliable. Well, not Rob Nelson this time, but Craig Eastman. I think the midfield was probably the best part of our game yesterday. And he did pick up a yellow card, I think, late in the game. But apart, I don't think he did anything wrong. He was one of our more reliable, consistent players with the game yesterday. Yeah,
I did wonder if Matt's decision to sub Omar so late was because he didn't pick up a yellow card until like really, really late in the game. So had he done that in the 60th minute, probably Killian would have come on earlier. But we'll see. Right, Stephen is waiting very, very patiently. But before we get on to Crawley, very, very quick chat. Any thoughts about Walton and Hersham match? I know it's going to be a fairly strong lineup. We seem to think. £5 a ticket, if that encourages anyone to go along. It won't encourage me because I don't like the Surrey Cup. But Harry, what do you think about the Surrey Cup match with Walton? Any thoughts? Interested in it?
Give Liangle a chance. Give Dave a chance. I don't think Walton are going to be aggressively going for it when they're sat quite high in the Ishmael and their focus is obviously going to be the league. You've got a chance to have a glorified friendly with a bit of silverware online. It's always good to go out and build confidence, but if you can work a few players together and start working on routines in corners, free kicks, link the new signings up, just build something from it. So I imagine go strong, go for the win, but don't push anything too hard. That's going to be detrimental Saturdays.
Absolutely. And Mark, I think we're still tied on 16 with Dulwich. So do we want to go for this?
Behind Dulwich.
Oh, are we? I don't know. I don't really pay much attention.
Matt said he's going to give some of the first teamers some game time. He didn't in the last round because the squad was so stretched. He didn't want to risk any injuries. But I think we'll see some of those fringe first team players starting, or maybe on the sub. Possibly we'll see Liangle, players like David and Topley will start. I was looking at the table, the Isthmian South Central it is. Merstham, who we beat in the last round with an academy side, but third bottom, whereas, as Harry said, Walton and Hersham are currently third. So same level, but much higher up the table. So there will be a stronger side. But obviously we've got them at home to help us. So, I don't think anybody's going to be heartbroken if we go out of the Surrey Senior. But good chance of progressing to the...
Yeah, and as long as no one pulls a Philip like last year, where he plays the match and then goes, I think I might have played in an earlier round, actually. Never going to forgive him for that. Right, so we will move on to the Crawley Town match. Waiting very, very patiently, thank you very much, is Stephen. Hiya, Stephen, how are you?
Yeah, all fine, thanks. Yeah,
good. I mean, we spoke last time and you made a little bit of a throwaway comment, which is going to come back to haunt you, and you knew it at the time. You stopped supporting Premier League sides because you didn't like the soap opera. I mocked you at the time, and things got worse or better, depending on your viewpoint of viewing figures. How's it been the last feyu weeks? You're still talking to people.
Well, I think, to be honest, as you said about it, it has been a soap opera with all the stuff going on behind the scenes since that game or Boxing Day, would think you think about how I think there were about 5 days in a row when there was a club statement coming out, and then and then
every angle of that corner flag, all possible angles,
and also like. I mean, obviously, I did kind of know. I did know about the thing with Nichols for a few weeks because of the inside stuff I'd heard. So I had known for a bit he was going, but then obviously I didn't expect the manager to then walk out after just 3 games, and which was I mean that when that happens, that does show there's something quite bad going on behind the scenes. And then also the time I think the day after that, when I was up in London on the family thing, because it was a Christmas present for someone in my family, and then looked at my phone and I saw the owners going in the dugout for the game this evening, and I just thought, oh God, what on earth's going on? But, but at least we have a new manager in place now. That's all sorted. But hopefully, fingers crossed, that there'll be a little bit more positive news this week in terms of new players being brought in. But it's a mess though. I think that's putting it mildly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we all understand football. That whole thing of going in the dugout is it's entirely insane. But being generous, he probably just wanted to know what the hell goes on and how it all works, and didn't realise how much it causes a bit of a problem. As far as
how do you feel if you had it where you're imagine if your manager left and then all of a sudden your chairman decided he fancied having a go at sitting in the dugout for a league game? What would you think?
I think we said it to you last time. Bruce wouldn't do that. Bruce didn't really want to go on the pitch when we beat Wigan and got to Wembley for the first time under his stewardship. It wouldn't work. Our team are very very staid and proper. They wouldn't do anything like that.
No.
But so the season, I'd normally ask, what's the highs and lows? What's the lows and not so lows so far? What's the least low moment you've had?
Well, obviously the League Cup run was pretty good. Obviously, beat 2 teams from high divisions, and I think that was 2 out of 3 games that Kevin Betsy managed to win during his periods there. And then, to be honest, I thought the whole period, like the first couple of weeks when Lewis Young was in interim charge, that was all right as well. And I think that it's probably just that time why we're not in the bottom 2 at the moment. But no, I mean, as for the lows, I think I can think feel like Kevin Betsy's last match at Grimsby, where that game just summed his tenure up really. And then I could say probably the Hartlepool match last month, when I was sat there below freezing temperatures, and then had it where one of our own defenders heads it into his own net, like Didier Drogba or Romelu Lukaku would have done in their prime. So I think when that happens, you've just got to think, it's just. But to be honest, those are minor considering some of the things that have happened off the pitch. Like, I don't know if you read about the when the director of the football accidentally transfer listed the entire squads, he said it was something about his excuse was how he was messing around with software and all that. But I just don't understand how you can be so incompetent really to be able to do that. And and also when there was that Twitter rant as well that a few weeks just before New Year's Eve, when that was incredible too.
What one was that? Sorry.
So one of the co-chairmen, when he put I think it was a day after Everington walked, and then he did this thing. He's deleted it since probably because of the reaction, but basically he just kept ranting away about how it was something to do, like we said, about how he got rid of Lewis Young because of the shooting stats, like not
the XGs.
Something to do. And then also he gave away some information that probably probably shouldn't have been made. Like I think he probably shouldn't have said as well. Like there probably was some legal stuff that he gave away too, and it all it led, and in the end, but it just led to loads more speculation and sort of people discussing, have certain players have they been sacked, or was one player left? Did one player leave because of what happened with the manager, the former manager who has been banned from all football last week now. But I think it is a very concerning time at the moment, to be honest. But you just got to hope that the new guy that he comes in, he does bring a bit of sanity back, and also that he can bring in he can find a few good players in the market as well, because I do think we do definitely need to invest in a couple of areas.
And all those lows mentioned, and you didn't mention the corner routine against us.
The one that went viral on. Yeah.
We were quite pleased, because normally when those clips go out, it's normally a goalkeeper scoring against us or something. So we're like, yeah, that's grand, let's happy with that. So Harry, what do you think of the game on Saturday? I know it's a week away, but how do you think it's going to go? Do we need to just assert ourselves early, stamp out any shoots of recovery?
I would like to. Well, I mean, if we touch on Tuesday, I'd like to see Dave get 60 Tuesday and Dave hopefully get 80 against Crawley. Go out there, first 10 minutes, put them under pressure, just get an early goal, put a little bit of unsettle them, panic them, and from then it should just open the game up a little bit more. I know when you're playing a side low down, Crawley's situation, if you let them get into the game and build confidence, you're then going to be the team panicked and unsettled. So you've really got to get out there, get something nice and early, really impose yourself.
Yeah, and Mark, you nervous about the new manager bounce? I mean, Crawley have had, I think, 4 managers now. So
it's interesting that Scott Lindsay left Swindon. It was the first game after he gone. They won 5-0. Beat Grimsby yesterday. So I don't quite know what that says. But I get the impression that Crawley are still in something of a state of disarray, and they may or may not get their act together with the season. But I still think this is quite a good time to play them. So cautiously optimistic a win on Saturday.
Lovely. And Stephen, what do you think? What do you hope for Saturday?
I think I'll be very happy with a draw, to be honest, because although we haven't won a game away all season, so. A win would be absolutely brilliant, but I think looking at it realistically, I would take a draw, but you never know, you might have the new manager bounce and all that, and also he has been given more time to put his ideas across, because the fact yesterday's match got called off. So we'll see. And I think also is if we do manage to get a couple of new players in, that might help a little bit, But no, I mean, I don't know. I think it's always quite a tricky place to go up there, and the recent record has been pretty bad against Sutton, as I'm sure you all know, like last couple of seasons. So,
would you say the recent record? I don't think there's any sort of record of note apart from the last few years, because we never used to play each other that much. Mark, correct me?
I think only in the old friendly or cup competition.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever met competition before last season.
Yeah. And so this is like the first sort of Saturday game that we're going to sort of have with you not being so far away. And obviously there's a lot of unrest. So potentially are people staying away, or do you think there's going to be a lot of support?
I think there will be quite a lot of away fans coming up, partly because the fact it's very close, and also I do think that a lot of people are more like they're not angry at the team or anything like that. It's just all that they're not very happy with the boards and the management, as in more the higher up management, not necessarily the new manager, because he's literally only just come in. But I think we have to see what happens. I mean, it might be that if we get a couple of new players signed before then there might be a little bit more positivity back. But yeah, it's a pretty toxic atmosphere at the moment. Let's be honest. So
sorry, can I jump in quickly with a question for Stephen?
Yeah.
As a Crawley fan, do you find, you said obviously the atmosphere isn't negative against the players, Do you not think that the players should have a lot of responsibility given the money you spend, ability of the players that you have? It's not necessarily the owners.
Are you thinking about players like Dominic Telford, for instance?
You got players of ability and performing. Surely they hold some account.
I think with ones like Telford, I mean, he has started to turn a little bit of a corner the last couple of games. He scored 3 goals, I think, in the last 2. And to be fair, I think he has kind of stepped up a little bit, especially with the amount of turmoil going on behind the scenes last couple of games. But I'll say probably the main reasons that the midfield is just like it's happened the last couple of few seasons where the midfield has been the link, the weak link really, and I think it's become a lot more evident this term as well. Like Telford just hasn't really had the service at all to be able to play to his strengths, but. There's also been, I mean, we have also had quite a few injuries to our better players lately, which really hasn't helped either. So hopefully, I mean, fingers crossed we might get a couple of them back by this game. But there's that, and then. But I do think I mean, there's been 3 senior players who were dropped from the last 2 fixtures. We don't know exactly why that is or whether they will be coming back. But I think, to be honest with you, I'm not sure whether there will be. I think, to be honest, they're ones that I feel we can probably replace quite easily because, like, especially Tony Craig and Jake Hessenthaler, they've not been good enough all season to be honest. So,
well, that's actually about does it. We've kind of explored everything we need to explore. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for all your time, guys. Don't forget, you can let us know on any of the socials at Sutton Postcard. Sutton Postcard? Wow, that's a new one. Sutton Podcast. Every comment, like, and share is really appreciated, but don't do the postcard thing. I don't know what the hell that was. Subscribe to the podcast on any of your platforms. If you don't find it on the platform you prefer, do let me know and I'll sort of try and work out how to get it on there. Next time, I'm going to be joined by Neil, Will and Josh, hopefully. Thank you to the panel today, Harry, Mark and Stephen. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. Thank you for your time and we will see you all next time. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
United! 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 United!